everyone, it's Mithrilda and welcome back to my journey of learning to draw. Although lately it's becoming that as well as learning how to live my life as a more productive adult. Anyway, I've been extremely busy for the past week, the reasons for which I will elaborate on shortly, but something that made me jump on here and start writing the script now is that I looked through all the footage for this week's video and saw that there was only about 5 minutes in Procreate. 5 minutes! Procreate does speed things up and compress things a lot, but still. I need to get drawing and record some more and learn some more, and then get back to writing when I actually have enough video for a video. Okay, so I'm back on Memorial Day Monday at 10 p.m. For context, Memorial Day is a holiday in the United States for honoring and mourning those who have died serving in the United States military. In observance, most businesses are closed on the last Monday of May, and my office had a half day the Friday before as well. I started writing this script with the intention of finishing it and recording everything on Friday, but here I am, 3 days later, barely a paragraph into my script and feeling very weird about everything in life, to be honest. It's weird feeling like my time is no longer my own, that I only get to work on my video when my overlord company lets me off the reins for a long weekend, which I immediately squandered. Well, I really shouldn't say squandered since I took some greatly needed rest time, but I had scheduled a bunch of studying and other productive stuff when I mostly used this weekend for taking a breather and talking with family instead. It would have been so much better to just block off this weekend for family and relaxation, but instead I did all the family and relaxation stuff anyway, but with the nagging feeling of having to study following me around the whole weekend. Anyway, all of this not writing the script has allowed a lot of thoughts to start percolating through my mind, so I think the best way to get through all of them is to just start in chronological order. My last video came out a few weeks ago earlier in the month, and at that point, I was just getting started with my job and wrestling with how I could find the time in the day to do everything I wanted and plan out my time properly. At that point, I felt like time management would be my biggest foe to getting all my things done, and also leaving enough time to get some quality art in. The next week, I worked 8 hours a day, did a lot of packing and cleaning for the move, and still found the time for a little bit of art, an amount that was reasonable for the amount of time that I had left at the end of the day. Sometimes life really does take up that much time, and it was definitely a busy week. I felt pretty happy and satisfied and looked forward to doing more art after all the moving and stuff. I feel like the next part of the story takes a bit of background, so I'll try to go quickly. My job right now is as an actuarial student, and that means I'm required to take tests until I become a fully credentialed actuary. To put it simply, I need to pass 7 tests until I can secure my job as an actuary. I've passed 3 so far, and now I'm studying for my 4th. And these exams are serious business. My company expects me to take 2 a year. In order to pass this next test, I've laid out my entire study schedule until the exam date on October 23rd, and I'll have to study about 15 to 20 hours a week to hit my study hour goals. So adding that to my full-time job means a minimum of 50 to 60 hours of work related to my job every single week. Just saying that out loud is making my heart race a bit, especially thinking about how my last week has gone. I started studying for my exam on Monday when I got approval from my company to buy the study materials. I'd planned for 2 hours of studying on Mondays, so after I logged off from work at 5, I pulled out the textbook, notebook, pens, and calculator and got working. I figured I'm starting at 5 and I need to study for 2 hours, so if we factor in bathroom breaks and resting, then I should be done at 7:30, 8 at the latest. Then I could do art or whatever else I wanted and really relax carefree until Tuesday morning. As you can probably guess, things did not turn out that way. I started my time tracker and started studying and got bored immediately. Pushed through it for a few more minutes, then paused the timer and took a short break. I walked around, got some water, and got back to it. A few minutes later, I found myself on Reddit, so I stopped my timer again, subtracted a few minutes, and took another break, extremely frustrated by my wandering brain and feeling a bit hopeless that I would ever get to the 400 hours of study time I was aiming for. Long story short, it took me over 5 hours to get 2 hours of study time, since there was dinner in there somewhere. I didn't get to relax at all, and I stubbornly tried to stay up to do some art, but my eyelids basically shut themselves and I collapsed into bed at 1 a.m. On Tuesday, I ran into another problem. I get a few hours of study time paid for by my company every week, which is great, except I didn't anticipate my inability to perform good high-quality studying for long stretches of time. I scheduled myself 3 hours on Tuesday from 2 to 5 p.m., then another hour of personal study time. Oh my god. So by the time 5 o'clock came around, I'd gotten about 1 hour of high-quality work done, so I then had to catch up on the other 2 hours I was supposed to have accomplished during work, then my personal study hour on top of that. Needless to say, that was another exhausting day. I don't think I have to elaborate too much more, but I was feeling so upset, and it was only the first week of something I'd be doing for the next 2 years. I was so upset that I've been cursed with this flaw in my character, this lack of focus and discipline, and it was eating away at me. Maybe I wasn't meant to be an actuary. If I can't study and keep myself on a proper schedule, how can I possibly lead this life purely made up of exams? Then, I finally decided to get some help by looking up strategies for maintaining focus while studying, and I found some really interesting articles that really spoke to me. I'll link them below, and if any part of what I'm saying resonates with you, give them a read. I don't want to regurgitate everything back to you, but I will read out a few parts. I was reading through the article on studying, and the author wrote that, in the book Deep Work, one tip for cultivating a deep ability to focus is to drain the shallow work. Cal Newport, the author, defines shallow work as non-cognitively demanding, logistical-style tasks often performed while distracted. These efforts tend to not create much new value in the world and are easy to replicate. Shallow work includes things like sending emails, posting a new photo of your coffee on Instagram, and buying more instant noodles from the campus grocery store. Things that anyone can do without much thinking. Cal then goes on to warn against the dangers of shallow work. Spend enough time in a state of frenetic shallowness, and you permanently reduce your capacity to perform deep work. If we habitually check our phones, scrolling through our social media apps to see if a new notification has popped up, this will permanently hinder us from being the focus machines we want to be. The words permanently hinder was a hyperlink to another article called How the Internet Destroys Your Focus and How to Get It Back. And it starts with, remember when your parents used to tell you that playing video games would rot your brain? Well, they were wrong about that. However, if your particular set of parental units used the term warp your brain instead, they'd have been on the right track. In the last few decades, brain scientists have learned a lot about something called neuroplasticity. Essentially, the brain changes its physical configuration in response to the tasks you give it and the stimuli you expose it to. This can include something as simple as using a clock to something as complex as playing a video game. It can also include using the internet. Over the past few years, I've had a sneaking suspicion that my daily internet use was having consequences on the way I think. I used to be able to immerse myself in a book and read for hours. Now, that sort of task seems a lot harder. I also seem to remember spending a decent amount of my time bored when I was a kid. Now, boredom almost never creeps into my life. There's always something new grabbing for my attention. It turns out this suspicion wasn't misplaced. Like the clock, the video game, and countless other technologies, the internet quietly changes the structure of our brains as we use it, and the results aren't always positive. So today, let's explore how the internet affects our brains and what we can do to prevent or reverse its most harmful changes. And, okay, you guys, this shook me to my core. I, too, have always thought my attention span wasn't what it used to be. It's been especially noticeable when I tried to read a book for the first time in forever. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up and read a ton of books. I know, I'm basically the stereotype of a YouTube artist. Anyway, I tried to read a book a few years ago after a long break, and I just couldn't. I immediately wanted to do something else. And I did. I'm an adult, who cares, right? I also noticed my lack of attention span very prominently when I pulled out some of my old DS games, and I felt like they were so slow, and I gave up after about half an hour. It really puzzled me how I found reading and these games so fun back in the day. Reading this article, I'm like, wow, over the years, I've been seeking out more and more immediate gratification and letting this focus muscle in my brain waste away. Of course I couldn't enjoy these activities. It's like a spice tolerance, or so my friends tell me. The foods that they enjoy just give me pain. But if I slowly work my way up to it, I'll be able to enjoy the unique flavors and experience spicy food offers. And if I don't keep it up, my spice tolerance will revert back, and the foods that I enjoy may hurt me again. My focus and attention span have been so badly damaged that I need to slowly work my way up to it and push these muscles to build a little at a time, rather than shocking them all at once with a 4-hour block of studying. And the most important thing of all, from all of this, is that I can improve it. I can change myself and build this muscle. This feels so ironic coming from me. Miss Talent is a myth, but it truly is, and I didn't believe it. I thought that I was cursed, that I just didn't have the focus and drive everyone who was successful did. I questioned my ability to ever be able to make my dreams come true because I wasn't born into a brain that was able to do this. But now I know better. I can actually do something about this weakness and build this up so much it becomes my strength. I remember hearing in high school that people who have good grades and never studied in high school would build bad habits and not be able to transition into the rigor of college, and they either had to build those study habits or would spiral and fail. Well, I never built those habits in college either. I thought I was above it all, and that since I was still getting straight A's, that my study habits were fine, and that I didn't need to change anything about myself or how I was doing things. Anyway, that led me to where I am now, where my study habits and attention span are completely shot. I get what they were trying to say now. It's not about knowledge. I know I should be studying. I've blocked out time for studying. I've made schedules months in advance for my study time. But I still can't do it. My brain is physically incapable of mustering up the willpower to actually execute on these study sessions right now. Now, the next thing I'm questioning is how I never noticed this part of myself wasting away. I've been a top college student for 4.5 years, maintaining a 4.0 GPA for 3 of those years. How did I manage all that and never build up my ability to focus? The answer is fear. I procrastinated so hard, and I had such a fear of failing that I would consistently put myself into situations where I couldn't not study, if that makes any sense. It's like if you're out of shape and a lion starts chasing you. Are you going to not run? Even if you feel a lot of pain, you want to stop and you never ordinarily have the desire to work out. My desire to maintain my grades gave me enough fear to study extremely hard near deadlines and exams, and the intelligence I've been blessed with made me capable of absorbing the information and completing the assignments quickly enough to scrape by. Therefore, I never failed. I never had to examine myself and see how harmful this was. Like the person who outruns the lion doesn't gain any more desire to work out that they didn't have before. All the studying I did out of fear didn't train my discipline because I didn't use my discipline to study. I never had to. I never used the focus muscle to drag myself because I was being pushed by my fear and stress. And now that I'm trying to study for a test 5 months away, under no time pressure for pretty much the first time in my life, my puny muscles are pulling on this huge weight that I can't possibly lift at this time. But now, I know better. And I know that while this muscle is small and neglected now, this isn't the fate I'm cursed to. Because if ignoring it can make it shrink, then working it out and doing exercises to build it up can make it stronger. I'm learning that so much of what we think we are born with isn't our fate at all. Whether it's being artistic, as has been the main focus of this channel so far, or how well our attention spans and focus are developed. I don't want to step on any toes medical condition-wise. I have no authority to speak on that. Please don't take this as dismissing any disorders. I'm only speaking from my personal experience. Anyway, it's been a roller coaster of a week, from feeling so much despair to feeling so much hope. There is so much interesting info in that article, and I'd highly recommend giving it a read, since it talks a lot more about focus, neuroplasticity, and scientific evidence that our behaviors can alter our brains, as well as real steps we can take to slowly train our focus back up. However, I never read things that people recommend to me in YouTube videos, so I might just make a video going through all of this stuff in depth and making a game plan for my own fight to regain my focus. Actually, now that I'm thinking about that, I'm definitely gonna make that video because it sounds awesome. Thank you all for listening to a frustrated girl's attempts to figure out what's wrong with her. Question everything, you guys, especially the things you think you can't change. Stay safe, happy, and healthy. Remember that talent is a myth. Now, get back to work.